Hey, Nicholas with the Backyard TARDIS. I went and saw Godzilla -1 on like the last possible day that you could possibly see it. It was like I'd been wanting to see this movie, unable to get into the theaters. Finally went and saw it. It was amazing, amazing. I unfortunately have been sick. Was waiting because I don't believe in like going into a public space like a movie theater while you're sick. And also, you know, I was working a lot. I was really tired, and I'm like, oh, it's. I don't have a problem reading dialogue on something that's subtitled, but I'm like, I can't go in there not feeling like awake and alert and ready, because otherwise this movie is just going to lose me. And even when I went, I felt a little tired. I'm like, I got to see this because it's going to leave the theater. And I went in and I was amazed at how much Godzilla -1 completely captivated me. This drew me in, and I was just amazed, because the big thing about this is there's a couple of things, and this has got to put Hollywood on notice, because one, this was made with $15 million. $15 million. The special effects in this are amazing, and I feel like that's because they did a lot of it practical. They did some practical stuff. I imagine that maybe they use like Unity or something, video game engine to do some of it, but just the amount of like buildings crumbling and stuff like that was amazing. But part of that is also Godzilla was the slow presence. He was coming. He was this. He wasn't like running around and rampaging and just bam, 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 making everything look unrealistic. Like when he hit a building, it was kind of a slow boom, and like that building crumbling, and those reporters falling out the. Oh my goodness, makes you. This poor young man, and the guilt that he had. Trying not to spoil things, but he had a chance basically to take Godzilla out. Truth is, they show in the show that it wouldn't have made a difference. It wouldn't have made a difference. But he goes through a lot of his life thinking it might have made a difference. We see later that that simply had he rose to the occasion, it wouldn't have made a difference. But it's still the fact that he didn't rise to the occasion, and he's living with that guilt, and he's constantly living with that guilt. And you see that like he's being a very good human being throughout the movie, but some of that is him trying to make up. He's dealing with PTSD. Maybe I will put a link in the thing to Gaijin Goomba. Did a wonderful review. I was late, but I didn't care about spoilers. I went in with spoilers, and he did a really thing about the place that Japan was here, because everybody's like, why is it called Godzilla -1? What's the -1? That's because Japan is in a state of zero. They lost the war. But when they lost the war, their own government that asked them to make all those sacrifices abandoned the people. That whole political party, like, they disappeared. They did not, they were encouraging everyone, support the war effort, and then when it failed, they weren't out there support each other, they felt like they were left. Because the U.S. came in, disbanded the Japanese military, the Japanese government. They came in, sent it by the government, but that government wasn't really helping them enough against the fallout of the war. The Americans were coming in, and they're still. They have their issues now going on with Russia. Japan is kind of a military. They are trying to help stabilize Japan, but it's not the U.S.'s top priority, and it's the Japanese people. The people who, well, they may have supported their government, like they were not bloodthirsty, they were not evil, they were not the people kamikazing in like these are just the everyday citizens that their government made a decision to fight this war. And unlike Germany, it was not the ideology of like racial supremacy or something like that, and playing on the people's inherent distrust of blaming a group for that. Japan had a population problem. They were at a point where economically they needed to go to war to sustain themselves because they were overpopulated. They're trapped on this little island. They had too many people, and so. But then the fall of that, there's just no support. So the country is at zero, and then Godzilla shows up, and it's -1. But the big thing about this is everything about the monster looks great. Everything about Godzilla looks perfect. But usually the weakest part of a Godzilla story is the human story. That is the most powerful of this. This is a human story with a monster attack. You could take out Godzilla and you could make this aliens. You could make this you could make it all sorts of different things. It doesn't have to be Godzilla. The human story alone is what's compelling. And honestly, the original Godzilla had a lot of parallels, a lot of messaging about the effects of war, about the Japan's guilt in some of that, Japan's, recovering. And that's what this is showing the Japanese people at this time, because we live in a very unique society right now where there is a generation of Americans that are, for the most part, died off by now. But there was a generation of Americans, and I'm sure it coincides that while that generation has died off, there are people who grew up where their dad or their grandfather was like, the Japanese are horrible, they're awful, they're how could you buy a car from Japan? How can you have a Toyota? Don't you know they fought me in the war? Type attitude. To around the 80s. By the 80s, Japan was like one of our biggest allies. Japan culture was invading the U.S. We were getting anime. You're getting Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon, and then the 90s, and you got Pokemon and Nintendo, and all this stuff is like just blowing up over here. We're just eating up Japanese culture. Oh, Japanese is so cool. Oh, every kid wants to go to Japan. I want to go to Japan. There's so much cool stuff there. So much of the stuff from my childhood that I love comes out of Japan. So much of the stuff that's current that I'm enjoying is coming out of Japan because of all the weird stuff that's going on in Western media right now. And so it's really unique to see. This is Japan right after the reason why Americans hated Japan. Right after the war. Here Americans are kind of they're shown as like, okay, they're in charge, they're setting the rules, but like they're not helping, but the Japan government's not helping. And people who signed up to fight and die, people who had their kids die in a war, and they're told that none of that matters now. And then this happens, and to some extent at first, like, they're just, you're asking us to go on suicide missions against this thing? Why? Why should we? What's it? Because the illusion of for your country, that has been just destroyed in these people. The mentality where people were willing to kamikaze is just gone. That sense of like honors of and so the heart and the PTSD and the stuff that's shown in this, and yet it does all of this, and it's done by Japanese people. But at no point did it feel like an anti-American movie. At no point did it feel like this is what the bad Americans did to us. This was not some modern ideology revisits history. This is actually really well done. And this is something that, like, stuff like Doctor Who and, from what I hear, the new Quantum Leap shit, like, they go back and they re-show some of this stuff, and they do this like revisionist history. They either make some people worse than they were, or they make everything like hunky-dory, and it's like, no, that's not real. This shows what it was like in that time, and I love that. As a period piece, this thing is perfect but it's also a big kaiju monster movie. I'm looking forward to them creating more movies in the Godzilla -1, because this is almost like a soft reboot of the series. And it is. It's a reboot of the series. And so I really want to see more in this. I have not liked what has been coming up. But you know what? I am in a Godzilla mood. I watched the first couple of episodes of Monarch on Apple TV, and I enjoyed it. I'm only a couple episodes in, but I enjoyed it. But there is a trailer for Godzilla Kong, The New Empire. So we're going to go ahead and react to that. WB. Ethereal voices. Little Geiger counter.
For most of human civilization, we believed that life could
I only made it partway through Godzilla vs. Kong.
on the surface of our planet.
But you know what? I want to see some Godzilla. I'm hyped for it now. Is Godzilla under the sand? What's it? What the? Optimus Primal?
What else were we wrong about?
Dinosaurs. Love dinosaurs. Okay, there's Kong.
This world has more secrets.
Okay, the government now has our wings. Another monkey. Oh, he got his own Grogu.
What is that?
That's not Kong.
How can you tell?
What could have done this?
Witness the rise of a new empire.
Kong can't stop this on his own.
What is he can't stop? What's the pink monster? Wait, Godzilla? Oh. Who's that? Is that King Louie? It's King Louie from the Jungle Book. Why is his atomic breath pink now? Oh my goodness, it's a hallway scene. It's a hallway scene. It's... This is...
Is that a mini Kong?
No. Just no. Where to start? Donkey Kong's got a mech arm now. I mean, not Donkey Kong. King Kong. Godzilla is now officially gone Barbie. Is that like it? He's like the embodiment of like Barbenheimer is a thing. He's atomically made by Barbie. He's pink. He's Barbie pink and atomic powered. Oh, that is so bad. That is so bad. Oh my goodness. And then of course you gotta have a cute little giant monkey because it's gotta be cute looking because now everything, like, hey, I love Grogu, but it seems like everything has to have something like that now. This is just crazy what they're doing with these things. I just no. This looks awful. This just looks, and it looks CG. Godzilla -1 looks so real. these were already kind of B movies. I'll admit, I have kind of fallen off of Godzilla. I love all the campy old Godzilla movies because I like campy old, like, 60s B movies. But there's something about when you make it high production, it actually becomes less believable to me than the rubber suit. And the human characters become even more insufferable. And they take up so much screen time in these movies. I feel like the only movie that was anyway decent in this universe that was Kong, Skull Island. Oh, I don't want to see this. And Monarch's gonna. This is. It's really the Optimus arm and the pink atomic breath and the hallway scene is like, he's not gonna be alone. They're gonna go buddy cop, Kong and Zilla taking down the new monkey. Come on. Like, when you look at -1 and just how good it was, and then you look at this, you cannot take this and even put it on the same pedestal. Like, there's not a comparison. Like, yes, in a lot of ways, this is probably superior to some of the goofy older King Kong and Godzilla movies. But in other ways, like, there is a bit of charm of, like, that's of its time. It's like, you could not come out with an Adam West Batman today and have people be like, oh, this is awesome. It just, like, there might be somewhat, if they completely aped it and said, here is a new continuation with a new actor since he's died, here's a new actor playing a continuation of the Adam West show, I think it would just get mocked to all get out. It would not. And this to me is like, you're spending a ton of money on CGI. This is probably going to be a $350,000 movie, and it looks cheaper than a $15 million movie. Probably they're paying all those human actors too much. They're CGIing the entire world. There's no sets. Everything just looks like a video game. No, I don't want to see this. I am waiting for the next sequel that comes out of Japan to see what they come up with. I know I've missed a couple of the Japanese ones after, like, 2001 or 2 or whatever, that I need to go back and watch. I've not watched the Netflix ones. I've heard mixed things about those, but maybe I should check those out. But this I'm passing on. No, thank you.